The purpose of Wealth Talk is to educate, inform, and hopefully entertain you on the subject of building your wealth. WealthBuilders recommends you should always take independent financial, tax, or legal advice before making any decisions around your finances.
Welcome to episode 42 of Wealth Talk. My name's Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for WealthBuilders, and good to have by my side, in flesh today, Mr. Kevin Whelan, founder. Hello.
Happy New Year, Chris. Looking forward to a fantastic 2020 with clear vision.
It's been a while since we were sat side by side recording the podcast. It's
What episode number is this?
42 now.
Wow, 42. Chris, 42, the meaning of life. You know where that comes from, don't you?
I think, is it The Hitchhiker's Guide?
It is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You're well read, young man, aren't you, really?
I do my best. Well, it's the time of New Year's resolutions for many people, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so we're going to focus on this a little bit today. In fact, that ties in with one of the recent reviews that we had on iTunes.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, we really appreciate everyone who's taking time to leave us their thoughts on iTunes. And we had one from Auxilium Group who said, you know, the podcast length is just a great length when you're traveling and running. And of course, we've talked about leverage of time, haven't we, in previous episodes?
Yeah, I'm probably more about the travelling than the running, but I know what they mean. If you can leverage your time, and that's obviously a very key issue with all forms of wealth building, you leverage your time. And I think that's really what we should talk about today, is that leverage piece. Particularly at the question we often get, Chris, is how do you start building your wealth? You know, it's easy when you've got money. Everybody says you can be wealthy when you've got money, but what happens if you don't have money? But everybody's got time, and everybody could do a little bit on the side, Chris.
Okay, so shall we talk through what some of these steps might be?
Yeah, but didn't you get my joke?
On the side, I do.
So as always, Chris, you know, I'm a teacher by nature, so I like to create a mnemonic to help the teaching go along. And so S.I.D.E. are the key components of really something everybody can do. So why don't we give everybody a little bit of a kickstart to the new year and help them do that? That
sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. So S stands for spare time. Everybody's got a little bit, even if it's 5 minutes, right? So everybody's got a little bit of spare time. So it's just something you can do that's going to help you build your wealth in your spare time. So if we recognize everybody's got a little of it, then let's earmark some of that. The next thing is the I, which means something you're interested in. So you've got a little bit of spare time, and you're going to use some of your interest, or indeed we could use I for intellect, something you're good at, something you already know. Might not be money, but it's, you know, it's some asset that you have in your head. The D stands for you must do it regularly. I suppose a bit like the exercise, I guess. And you commit to doing something at least the same, ideally actually, Chris, the same time every month. Like, you know, my old watchword, isn't it? Never let 30 days go by without doing something to build your wealth. Well, do it on the side. It doesn't have to be a full-time activity. It could be just something small. And we'll get on to what those things could be in a minute. And E is, for many people who are at the beginning of their journey, Chris, they're worried about, you know, some expenses they've got in their life and they want to get rid of them. And the ideal elimination for E is to get rid of some kind of expenses that would be debt or something. And if you don't have any expenses you want to get rid of, you know, you're completely free of consumer debt, then you would use that to maybe reallocate to build an emergency fund. So E for emergency. So you get the idea? Mm-hmm. So you're starting to build something and anybody can do it. And that's where the fund starts, right?
Okay. So we talk all the time about wealth builders being built on cornerstones of education, support and connection.
Yeah.
So if we take the S for spare time, would it be a good use of that spare time to invest that in some education?
Well, it's always good to get education, so you could use the E for education. Yeah, absolutely. So whether you're finding some activities, and I'll go into some of those things that people can do to, you know, you generate some income. Usually you're not going to be generating assets if you've only got a small amount of time. It's possible, but most people don't. They're going to create a little bit of side income, Chris, a little bit of additional income on top of whatever they're doing in their job or on top of whatever they're doing in their self-employment, if you see what I mean. And then whether you do that to reduce expenses, whether you do that to build your education, whether you do that to build an emergency fund, they're all good uses of money to make you feel like you're building a little bit of a foundation. So that's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Can we dive into some ideas?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. So I'm going to get you to think about, Chris, what can you borrow? Have a think about that. So what has somebody else got that you could borrow and use, and that could create some income? So the unused capacity that somebody else has got in their life, you could use to create some income from. Have a little think about that. Scratch your head a little bit. Nothing coming to mind?
Well, not so much of borrowing from someone else, but recently I was speaking to the CEO of a company called Turo, and that's all about using the spare capacity of your motor vehicle.
Right.
So if you're at work Monday, Friday, and your car is sat on your driveway,
there you go.
then you can rent that out.
You could rent that out. So you can, in a sense, then you can borrow the access to somebody's vehicle. We also heard, didn't we, in a kind of a strange, different way of doing it, but it's flipping it a bit. We heard from people who use something called trusted house sitter. So where they would occupy a property that somebody who owns that property wants to go off and do something, 2 or 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, whatever, and therefore you can live in a property and you can live rent-free, because all you're really doing is sitting in a property and looking after pets. And there's a whole website, I think it's called Trusted House Sitter or Trusted Sitter or something like that. And I'm thinking about doing that for a very long trip to Australia, for example. And I know Bronwyn did that, one of our Wealth Builder members. But the other issue with rent-to-rent, for example, you heard rent-to-rent is a property strategy. Well, you're kind of looking for unused capacity. Now, in that you're sort of buying somebody else's property off them for a period of time, right? So it's
you're really borrowing the asset, aren't you?
You're borrowing the asset,
and you're sweating the asset.
Now you see, you're getting my language. So although you're paying them for the use of it, but you're borrowing that for a period of time, and then you're using that asset to create an income for you that you can then use to do something else. So look at rent-to-rent as a strategy. There are some people who look at universities and colleges during the off-season in the summer, when those buildings or the land is not being used. So what could you do with regard to that? We've also seen the growth of pop-up restaurants. They're popping up where you've got, say, city-based restaurants where they're not open certain times of the day or certain days of the week, like the weekend, for example, and they create pop-up restaurants. So you're really just looking around for who's already sunk some costs into something that is not being used for the whole of the week, for the whole of the year, and what can you do to do that? And you mentioned vehicles. I also heard someone say they got a cafe, that they're using, which again isn't available all the year round. So, and not only can you rent something from somebody else, Chris, or borrow something from somebody else, but you could JV it. You can say, well, you want to go away for a period of time, like the trusted sitter, I'll use that and we'll share the profit. So you can create a joint venture from these things. You getting the idea? It's the whole principle about this is you don't have to be thinking about you having the resources. You just have to have the resourcefulness. And this is the skill in wealth building where you don't have all the money and all the assets in your own disposal. Okay?
It's thinking like an entrepreneur, which we covered on an earlier episode. Exactly.
And another way to look at it is, I talk about bartering skins at the border. So this idea of bartering. Now, bartering doesn't happen anymore, really, in terms of, people don't trade,
Not in the UK.
I suppose, we don't have people swapping, beaver skins for corn, but, there is still concept of bartering, still very healthy in the UK. We've got 2 businesses that have built their entire operation around bartering. One's called Bartercard. So if you're a business owner, check that out, Bartercard. And it essentially allows business owners who've got spare capacity, but they don't have enough customers, to then be able to trade the capacity in one business for another. So an accountancy needs more clients, and let's say a small hotel has got spare capacity in the hotel. So the accountant says, well, I'll do your books, and you just start doing things like this. So the whole bartering, and you could use it for yourself. So what are you brilliant at? And what do you need as an education? Why couldn't you provide what you're good at for something somebody else does? So we talk, for example, one of our students, Steve, who's brilliant at websites, but he's got a day job. What could he do? He could create a website for somebody else who could teach him how to do something that then in the future builds the capacity for wealth. So it's almost be curious. You remember I said, I can't remember what podcast it was, Chris, but we've got a whole idea about this concept of the ROI, reason to overcome inertia, return on investment, return of investment, and so on and so on and so on. The one that I love more than anything else is that curiosity ROI. That ROI says you're only one relationship, one opportunity, or one idea away from a complete transformation in your wealth. And that's true. And I believe that. And that's why I still do this despite being an old geezer. Because I know it happens, doesn't happen every day, but it happens most weeks, doesn't it? Something really exciting crops up. So if you become curious and start seeing this happening, you see other people doing it, then your subconscious is going to work on ideas for yourself. At the very least, though, you could be a great salesman. You want to know that one?
So this would be...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we've done that. The S.I.D.E, we did that, didn't we, on spare time? But becoming a great salesman is something I wrote in a book called Save a Fortune in 2004. Save a Fortune, How to Completely Eliminate Your Mortgage Loans and Credit Cards Fast. And I guess we could put a link there and give everybody a free PDF of that.
Sure.
Why not? That's a gift. Don't have to pay for that. And one of the secrets in the book, and there are 12 secrets to eliminate debt really, really quickly. And I use this is to pay my own mortgage off in 7 years flat. And I haven't had a mortgage for, I can't remember how long now. And you become a great salesman. What I mean by that is, in the end, if you think about this point, if you don't create wealth and you become dependent in a sense in the long term, you're going to end up selling stuff you don't want to sell. You're going to downsize. So why not look at today's culture is all about selling stuff that you no longer need. So my kids were selling the old phones. They cleared out my books. They cleared out the CDs. We don't need CDs anymore. Everything's on Spotify, isn't it? I don't have any CDs anymore. So the whole concept of selling stuff, and I know technology changes and people are now buying vinyl. And, we were talking earlier on about the QR codes have all come back, haven't they? Because of the speed at which the phone can recognize things. But the whole idea of, if you think about it, books, games, DVDs, the speed at which things are done on eBay, clearing other people's clutter. There's a whole culture, isn't there, about, I forget the name of the lady who helps people to really declutter their life, and you have this sort of ritual of thanking your wellies for serving you so well in the past, and then you pat them on the head and you move them out of the way. It's a business, right? So where has anybody else got clutter in their life that you could declutter their life? So we're moving towards this high level of personal service towards other people. So declutter yourself, but then see where there's an opportunity to declutter others. I wish I could put my teeth in. But you know what I mean? Yeah? And this is what you can do. And then you can either sell other people's stuff or you can split the profit on other people's stuff. So there's a whole host, Chris. There's really no shortage of opportunity. And you know what? I would just love if some of our students or some of our listeners could tell us what they've done. Because it would, that one idea that you have, that you're doing because it came to you, could be the very exciting ROI for somebody else who never thought of that, didn't even cross their mind, but they hear it from you and you change somebody else's life. So please give the gift of what you're doing in your life that's creating a side income. Some people call it a side hustle, I think. Something on the side, a little bit on the side, that can do something to help somebody else. And share.
And I would say share this podcast with your partners and their creative juices start flowing as well.
And
between
maybe,
you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so maybe this is started off as almost kind of an acknowledgement of the beginning of the year when everybody kind of presses reset. Then I think maybe this is a really exciting one. And of course, it's all about connecting, which is really the key part. So how do you network better? How do you build relationships? How do you add value? And one of the ways you can do that is become an affiliate. There's multi-level marketing programs out there. So you can do that in your spare time. You could become an affiliate of a product that you really like. If you truly resonate with something, explore being an affiliate of that. We know we've got affiliates in WealthBuilders, people who love WealthBuilders so much they can't stop telling other people about it, and we're happy to pay for that. And there's all sorts of affiliate opportunities out there if what you're connecting people to is genuinely great value, something that you truly feel connected to, and it fits your wealth dynamic and it fits your interest, then there's no reason why you wouldn't do that. And then as you make those affiliate incomes, for example, some of the things I say to our affiliates is, I would like to be sending you checks for you to be paying down your mortgage, or for you to be building up an emergency fund, or for you to be reinvesting that money in the market to start building your wealth, or to be creating a business, or to doing a rent-to-rent. So you don't need a fortune in money to start building wealth. And what's the key is to do something. Remember the podcast number 2. You're a doer, in terms of being a dynamic. You're a drifter or a DIYer. So, be a dynamic. The whole idea of the dynamo is the tire in the old bike turns, you touch it against the dynamo, you create light. And this is what we're doing. By doing and sharing these ideas, we're creating light and opportunity to help other people get a pathway to build their wealth, eliminate their debt, and to start that process and that momentum. And that's what I would encourage people to share and do.
Yeah, and I'd remind people listening, if you haven't checked out an earlier episode, which was Wealth Talk episode 20, which was Becoming Wealthy Only Takes One Day a Month. So by finding something on the side here, dedicating that time, you can be on the path to building wealth. And that may take, obviously, some years, but the key here is getting started.
Yeah, and the momentum picks up. So it's like changing gears. You start off on first, you get into second, you get into third, and your perspective is always changing. So you will get faster. It isn't just, you have to keep doing this. What happens is you do a little bit and then something else comes along because your perspective, like moving in a vehicle, changes. So don't overthink it. Just start doing it.
Okay, that's great. I like those steps, Kevin.
Yeah. What are we signposting? What can people expect in the coming weeks then?
Well, we talked about rounding off the business pillar, and we want to talk about, obviously, the climax of a business ultimately is to build a business that you can sell if you want to.
Yeah. So we will be, I've talked about this a couple of times now, so we will be very much focusing on the skill of selling a business and why that's important. And also, actually, we'll talk about how to buy businesses, because in the same way as we talked here about rent-to-rent, which is largely about someone being weary, tired of their landlord work, and they will let you take over that property to do something different that applies some skill. It's the same with business. You can buy a business that somebody's weary of. Most business owners, in the end, walk away weary. They do not walk away wealthy. And you can spot that and help. It's not taking advantage of someone to provide added value at a point when they need that. So we'll talk about that. And I think also we should talk about how the founder members are doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what the feedback is from that, because we're just compiling that right now, aren't we?
That's right. And obviously we'll be opening up the doors again in
March.
Around spring, yeah. So it'd be really good to share some of that feedback that we've had and the progress some of those members are making.
Well, the members have been great at helping us learn and do a better job. And every time they give us a nugget of information and feedback, we've used that to tweak things to get even better. And I think the feedback on the Wealth Wall chart has been spectacular.
We've sold out.
We haven't got any left.
No. So, thank you to everyone that managed to get in quick and get a copy of the Wealth Chart. They've been super, super popular.
Well, we should really just recreate them, shouldn't we?
Let's get some more printed up, shall we? Because I'm sure there's some people who missed out.
Yeah, that's really great because you can see everything in one place. All the Wealth Builder lessons are there for you to see. You can put on the Wealth Dynamic. You can log your activities, the things you're doing, the simple things once a month. And you could log your side activities there. And you can see your wealth income growing little by little
the wealth
at the
thermometer.
start. The wealth thermometer, yeah. So if you haven't had a look at that, put a picture of that on the show notes, Chris, just to remind people that it's there if they would like one, because I think that's it's probably one of the best things we did and the best bits of feedback we got was, why didn't we got something that people can use and remind them of their wealth activities every single month?
Absolutely, sure. Okay, so we will be back same time, same place next week. And if you do have a couple of minutes and you've been enjoying the show, head over to iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to the show and leave a review, let us know.
We'd really appreciate it. And until next time, Chris, see ya.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget that we are constantly updating our resources inside the Wealth Builders membership site to help you create, build and protect your wealth. Head over to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership right now for free access. That's wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership.